Hey everybody, we're back. Patriot Son Podcast. I am going to go straight into a video after this. Will Donahue, and then you will see the podcast start. We're here, we're live, we're glad to have you. Give me a good call.
It's just that I think the public needs to be informed. We need to be told the benefits versus the risk. We need to know what we're facing.
Well, the darker side of the polio vaccine, and what nobody knows, is that Jonas Salk has pointed out that in the last 10 years in this country, 2/3 of all the cases of polio have been vaccine-induced.
How many cases is that, Bob? How many cases, Bob?
Would you not interrupt me for a second? I know that doctors are used to interrupting patients, but not another doctor.
Especially another doctor.
I think, but let's get. He does make a point that we should also say Sabin is live and live vaccine, and Salk is
inactive.
Is inactive, as we say in the laboratory. All right. How many was it? They ask.
Well, how many people know that the European epidemic of polio, there were about 20 or 30 cases in this country. Now, of course, the American doctors will argue that the reason why polio disappeared in this country was because of the vaccine. But then why did it disappear in Europe in the 1940s and the 1950s without mass vaccination? Why doesn't it occur in the third world where only 10% of the people have ever been immunized against polio or anything else?
So, in other words, we may be fighting a tiger that died.
That's quite correct.
Ask the people in Great Britain.
Real quick, I'm going to pause because if you've followed any of the stuff that JC and I have done, and we talked about this, we've been very clear about when epidemics, pandemics, whatever they're called at the current time, have ended. And they're lining this up right now. This is 1985, Phil Donahue. Did you want to make a comment, JC, before we restart this video?
Actually, I do. I know, shocking for our homies, all right? No, I do want to make a comment. And my comment would be this. The first podcast that I was invited on to participate with the Patriot Sons or the Orange Peels or whoever the hell they were, okay, was about vaccination. And they wanted to know about what's in the vaccines and what is the real story. And this just reverberates through our culture because at our core, anyone who's thinking about what's going on and watching the spike in autism and all the rest of it realizes that there's more to this than we're being told. And in fact, the more militant among us think that we've been had. And Robert Kennedy said it out loud a few years ago that more kids got cancer and died of that as a side effect to the polio vaccine than would have died of polio. And because of sanitation and the rest of the things that the West had progressed through up to and including World War II, I believe Kennedy was right. Okay? And Kennedy is, in terms of this administration, Kennedy is in the top 5. And if I'm going to give you the top 5 in this administration, it's obviously going to be Trump because someone needed to get elected. But number 2 is J.D. Vance because he's the torchbearer who can elucidate and illuminate Trump's policies better than Trump. And he really can. He is he's a hammer, all right? But after that, RFK Jr. is right there. And Marco Rubio is right there. I mean, they don't miss. And then if you're going to ask me for number 5, that's I don't know. I mean, you could argue the case for a number of people, but Tulsi Gabbard comes to mind as the person who exposed all of Russiagate and actually gave us the goods. And if Rick Grenell was in the administration, I think he would be number 4. But he's not. He's at the Kennedy Center just absolutely blowing liberals off the map in the culture war. So it's hard to say number 5 because I'd like to give it to Grinnell, but I love me some Tulsi. And when Roger Stone first suggested that she should be vice president, I was horrified. Now I think it would be good, but not instead of Vance. Really, there's some huge quality.
I hear you, and I at the same point when you were going to make the argument for Tulsi Gabbard, I would have said, "Hey, you guys are missing something in Sarah Huckabee Sanders, especially if you want to see somebody finally break the glass ceiling." And we're not there yet. I do want to mention quickly, JC, all of the subjects that we have talked about so far on the podcast, we talk about in great detail in episodes. You can find our Rumble channel at Sean Strom or Patriot Sons podcast. They're both the same. Whatever's easiest for you to search out on Rumble. But when we talk about sanitation, we did an entire hour and a half on how sanitation really was the cure to pandemics as opposed to vaccinations. We've done hour-long segments on all of these things we're going to talk about, and we're going to talk about a lot of them again, and they're going to repeat, and but we're going to expand upon them, right, JC? And I still have more.
No. The points are going to be the same, but you're going to come at them from different angles to buttress the point. Like the flying buttresses in Gothic architecture. The columns that held up the spires of the old cathedrals. Because the fact is, all roads do lead to Rome, and there really is only one version of the truth. And let me just throw this out there for fun. There's a lot of heat about the hepatitis B vaccine, and someone said the quiet part out loud. They thought the pitch they made was that we could vaccinate hepatitis B out of the culture. What an insane idea to give that stuff to a newborn baby and to challenge their neurologic and immune systems with that poison. Sorry, not sorry.
As long as I can keep you, I can keep you long on this because we've got a lot to talk about. I want to finish this clip. 1985, Phil Donahue. You guys all need to understand. This is 1985. Donahue is not news. He is a podcaster like us. He's doing a show. And
he was the first podcast without hugs, and Oprah ruined it by hugging everybody. Okay, but Donahue really wanted to get to the truth. He really did. Yes. He was an honest liberal. And good luck finding one of those today. I mean, I've got a few Matt Hentoff and some other folks who actually really believed in free speech. Our buddy Nick actually believes in free speech too. But there are so few left-wingers that actually tolerate any dissent at this point, at least in public.
Absolutely. Let's start this back up.
Go ahead.
Ask the people in Japan who...
back here. Gentlemen, if you please, I've got probably the smartest audience we've ever had.
I have a question. How long a delayed action, if any, would you connect this with, like MS?
Is MS a possibility? Would multiple sclerosis be one of the possible results?
As a matter of fact, there's a new publication that just came out from John Hoffman, who's a close associate of Toni Morris's, that gives the references linking MS in later life to the early introduction of live virus vaccines like measles and like some of the others that are live viruses. Now, at the present time, I would recommend that anybody who has MS or amyotrophic lateral sclerosis or any of those degenerative neurologic conditions of later life carefully review their vaccine histories.
So I'm gonna keep playing this. I gotta nail you down as the pharmacist, the scientist in our space, a real scientist, not scientist trademark. Oh, can you explain to the audience what the difference is between a live virus vaccine and an inert virus
Yeah,
vaccine?
absolutely. The inert vaccine is obviously dead. The live virus vaccine is introducing a pathogen into your body to invoke an immune response to that pathogen. And the theory, as I understand it, and I'm not perfect, I'm a science advocate, but I'm a science advocate in that I believe in objective truth and the scientific method, which my understanding is the Germans, they didn't have a a clean slate of wonderful things that they did, but they did believe that you could get to the truth of many things in physics, chemistry, and biology. And an attenuated vaccine was something that would create an immune response that would guard you against a fulminant infection. And fulminant means everything. All right. And so you'd have antibodies against these negative things, and they'd be at a point where if that was introduced, they just fight it off and it would be done. Now, a dead vaccine was something that would not last as long because it was just going to be washed out of your system. But a live attenuated
So that
virus would,
the theory on the like if you just have the virus, whatever the virus is, and it's dead, you left it in the petri dish long enough
right,
that if you injected it, you would get at least some sort of immune response, but
shorter term.
it would be not long lasting.
Right. It would be shorter term. It would not be lifelong. Their advocacy was for live attenuated virus because then it would build up a massive immune response that you could always fight off the bug. So you wouldn't need boosters. All right.
God, this is going to be a fun one. Let's keep playing.
Okay, let's do it.
I would also like to comment to that because in connection with my case, I've been doing some research.
Let me tell him once again, Ms. Gundy, that you are a Guillain-Barré victim contracted following your receipt of the swine flu vaccination.
Yes, and I am in the process of writing a book about my experience, and in the process, I've done considerable research. And from what I have learned, it looks as if immunizations frequently cause autoimmune diseases, not only Guillain-Barré syndrome, but lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, and other types of things. Now, I have no data at this point.
We should also say that there's a good deal of evidence suggesting that multiple sclerosis may be the result of distemper in an animal that the victim received during childhood. Now, none of this is absolutely nailed to the wall. But that's the problem with this. What's a mother to do with all of these balls in the air and nobody really certain?
I would just like to also comment that we had 46 million people vaccinated with the swine flu shot. And I have written to Ralph Nader's organization. I have written to some of the government organizations trying to get them to do a survey, an ongoing survey, to see if these vaccinations do cause autoimmune diseases or what the reactions are. I can't even get a response because I'm not a doctor. I have no clout. I'm a nobody.
Mrs. Grant, why were you shaking your head?
You know, it is known with that vaccine, it's with all vaccines. Yes. They are not interested in the adverse reactions. As a matter of fact, if I may, I'd like to invite anyone to write to me if they've had an adverse reaction. I'd like to help the government because they don't want to know, but I would like to know.
I am a mother of 3 children, and I have been informed, and I've read up on these things. And I chose not to vaccinate my children, but when they get to school, why is it that I have to fight for my rights as a mother and the choice I've made?
Let me just quickly, we're long, but that's a very important question. Here are the states in which you either have the totally free decision about whether or not to vaccinate, or we're calling them loophole states, states where they're not going to send your child to solitary if you don't have his card, you know? All right, California. Not all children must be immunized in these states. Some require religious reasons. Some places there is a bureaucratic humma you have to go through to prove that you're this or that. And Others, it's probably easier. So just for the sake of simplifying this, Colorado, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, Maine, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Utah, Vermont, Washington, and Wisconsin. If your state is not on there, it means that your child is going to be left at the kindergarten door.
All right, so I'm going to close that out. By the way, TPE USA, if you're listening to us, we like what you do, but hold on. People from Indiana are called Hoosiers, not Indianans. So I got to pick on you there. But look, 1985, Donahue, not a news program, just like you're listening to this podcast or watching it. Not a news program, but we're bringing you information to consume and think about. And they were talking about in 1985 the same things we're talking about today. I vaccinated my child, and all of a sudden there was a vaccine injury. I didn't know what it was, but all of a sudden my child had lupus, or all of a sudden my child, all right, had ALS, or my adult parent had ALS. Like this. And then you got to look, you really, really need to focus at where the media was at the time, which was all of this science is good. It's progress. And JC and we're going to have to find that episode and repost it of sanitation. Sanitation coincides with the end of pandemics, endemics, whatever they were called at the time.
Coincided with the end of infectious disease as a life-threatening situation.
Mm-hmm.
Because the combination of vaccination, the combination of sanitation and antibiotics extended life expectancy for 20 years.
Mm.
It gave people an extra generation to live. And that continues more or less to this day. We've started to back off and go downhill because of illegal immigration and the lax standards of letting people into the country that have all sorts of crap like tuberculosis and all the rest of the stuff. We don't test them for anything. And that is a
look at the
freaking
neighborhoods they
disaster.
move into. Look at the neighborhoods they move into. They took the sanitation and said, "Oh, I don't give a shit," and they throw it all out in the street. Their trash, their whatever they comes out of their body. They live in the same way that they lived in. Pick a country. I'm not going to name one, but pick a country.
Somalia.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, disease.
India.
Follows. And a lot of people will argue with me, well, you can't get measles because some Somali pooped in the street. And I say, yeah, you actually can.
Yeah, you can.
You absolutely can. Well, how? You didn't touch the poop. It infects everything. That's why
Doesn't matter. Anybody who touched it touched something else that you might have touched. And you saw Trump in an existential crisis at the beginning of COVID trying not to touch his eyes because the mucous membranes of the eyes, the mucous membranes in the nose can introduce a viral pathogen into your system, and you can actually eat COVID and not get it. But if you put it in your eye, you will get it. And we've all learned a whole lot about it, relearned a whole lot about infectious disease, but I get the idea that a whole lot of people didn't know anything about it to begin with. And the fear-mongering was way too effective.
Can I ask, because I know just a little bit enough about it, can I ask you to explain the difference between entering a membrane like through the eye or through the nose as opposed to going through the stomach? So you just eat a taco that was prepared by somebody who had the flu.
Doesn't matter. If you eat it, your gastric juices and the hydrochloric acid and the two or less acidic pH of your gut kills everything, and you may get food poisoning and you'll crap your guts out, but you're not going to get the infection. That's how it works. You actually have to introduce it through your vulnerable mucous membranes to get it. Or droplet infection is something that just falls in urine,
Mm-hmm.
or it falls on your hand and then you put it in your nose and then it invades. But to actually eat it is not nearly as risky as touching your eye. I know, it sounds crazy. I mean,
Well,
I could
it,
eat a COVID taco and I wouldn't get it. I mean, that's how it works.
well, yeah, I agree with you, but obviously, I just wanted a scientist to explain it. A real scientist. There's plenty of good ones out there. You should follow them. Follow us first.
Of
We will
course.
lead you to them. I gotta like one of the questions I had, JC, is why are we introducing metals like aluminum into vaccinations and especially into mRNA vaccinations? What does that chemically do to the vaccination that they think would be helpful?
It increases the profit. Do you want to know why? Because it's stable much longer if you have the metal in there.
Okay. All right, so
Right.
I remember in the early 2000s when we were peddling flu vaccines, and they only had a shelf life, and they came in frozen on cold ice of like 3 days, and then all of a sudden it went to like a month.
Right.
Did they
Let me
introduce
ask you.
metals into that?
Let me ask you a question, Sean. And we have a real life example. Do you remember when they were first talking about the Pfizer shot? That it had to be sub-zero, and it had to
Yep.
be kept sub-zero until it went into your arm,
Mm-hmm.
right?
I do.
Or else it would lose its potency. You don't hear anything about that anymore, do you? It's because it has metals in it that stabilize the compound and make it shelf life 2 or 3 years or something along those lines, which allows you to not waste, all of that profitability. Sorry, not sorry. That's where it is. You don't wanna throw out something that the government's going to pay for. You wanna be able to store it and believe it's safe and then inject it, and then everything's fine, right? Is it really when you get Guillain-Barré, or will you get ALS, or when you get what, oh, what is that stuff called? The nasty it's just there's so many of these things. I'm thinking of lupus. That's the
Oh,
word I'm
lupus.
trying to
Yeah.
come up. Oh, yeah, I mean, come on, and then they use lupus as an excuse to not use hydroxychloroquine, but that's a whole nother discussion because hydroxychloroquine is cheaper than dirt, and
Well,
you're
yeah,
never
and
gonna run a
I got a chart up showing,
Go ahead.
it's figure four. The aluminum concentrate and doses vary administered to children, and this is where I'm going to get into what we saw or what you and I have seen recently is that the massive amount of aluminum put into childhood vaccines, which is what Bobby Jr. has been talking about. He goes, "Look, I'm not opposed to vaccines. Nobody's opposed to an actual vaccine, but
That's
you
been
have it
tested and
first.
safe.
We have it proven through a placebo study that they're actually safe." And I've got
Right.
this chart up here on aluminum vaccines. They're putting aluminum. You're putting when you go to whatever your favorite pharmacy is, and they're like, hey, listen, we'll give you a $5 gift card if you take the vaccine. Oh, the flu vaccine. The COVID, it doesn't matter what it is. But they do this and they try to talk you into it. They're like, oh, well, we'll give you the $5 gift card and we'll bill your insurance.
Insurance.
You won't pay anything. You get $5. You can almost buy a hamburger with the $5. So why don't you come back and do it? And this has been going on. We've explained this for everyone who's not listened. JC and I have explained this. This has been going on since at least the early 2000s. And so
Well,
then what happens is they're like, no, no, no. Well, what about your kids? Don't they need we'll give you another gift card, another $5. And you're going to go, well, $5 doesn't sound like a lot. I'm talking about 20 years ago. It was a lot of money, actually. If you brought your family in of 3 kids and your husband, you're like, yeah, give me the flu shot.
Sean, I don't want to date myself too much, but in 1985 or 84,
When
I
you were
would
watching Phil Donahue,
I would cut with my gas-powered lawnmower a neighbor's yard and walk through mountains of dog crap in the backyard for $5, and then she would negotiate me down to $3.50 if I wanted a steady job and I was enough of a whore to take it. All right. That's how much $5 was worth. Right now,
mhm,
$5 is, it's a joke.
I mean, you have $50 to equal $5 now.
Exactly, exactly. Or at least, or 20 is throwaway money right now. I mean, you get up to 50, people start to notice a little bit. 100, yeah, okay.
So where I was going, right, is they were willing to throw money at you a little bit
A little
so that
bit.
you would take this stuff. The big one was the flu vaccine.
Yes.
And then I think I'm gonna have to go into our bookmarks here on the show and find it. I've got some information on how the flu vaccine actually creates the flu shot taker, being 30% more susceptible to getting any infectious disease. Because, and here's where I want you to go, I'm teeing you up. When you take these vaccines, you are destroying your immune system.
I think I may have said that. In fact, I have, in fact, if I, and not to stomp on your message, but Kennedy himself said that you couldn't pay him to take a flu shot. That's a current quote. He will not do it. Okay. And the issue is this: when you're fighting infectious disease, there's 2 ways to do it. And the way that the American medical establishment has deemed as acceptable, and this goes for cancer too, because frankly, cancer is a pathogen of sorts. All right. Not, it's related. But the point is, you can't poison your way to health. What you can do is enhance your natural, God given immunity to fight disease. And the flu shot works against it. There it is. In the same way that the COVID shot works against it, in the same way that almost everything they've done works against it. They should have learned their lesson from penicillin, but they didn't. Augmenting the human immune system is the ticket to longevity and health. Poisoning ourselves is a ticket to a cemetery plot.
Which we absolutely talked about, especially when it comes to things like chemotherapy and
Yes.
radiation. And you're looking at the whole health of the human being. You're not actually looking at the whole health of the human being. You're
I've
not.
got I've got another anecdote for you.
Go for it.
My sister took chemotherapy this year against my advice. And if she's
Well,
listening to
it's
this
brutal.
podcast,
We gotta explain how brutal it is to the human body. It's brutal. You feel awful, awful the entire time you take it. You're barfing. out the butt. It's awful. And then when you get out of it, if you survive it, and if you kill that thing that they wanted to kill, now you have zero immune system.
Right.
So
They
then
killed
you have
they
to hide.
in the process, they killed everything else that could help you fight it off.
Yes.
Everything. All of it. And it's a fool's errand. Here, $62,000 a month. Bill to insurance or $300 a month, maybe $35 a month at the minimum for fenbendazole. All right. Which do you choose? Now, if you are one of the TV people, which my sister is, then you are far more likely to go along with the establishment and say, I don't want to take any chances. And all of a sudden you have to nap, and all of a sudden you can't do anything, you can't really
Eat. I mean,
travel.
you try to eat, but you can't eat.
But you can't
You
eat
can
because
do anything.
the food doesn't taste very good. It's all bad, and your quality of life is destroyed. And of course, the medical establishment gets rich. And I hate to say it's all about money, but Sean, I've heard the saying. They told me to follow the science. I tried to follow it. I couldn't. So I followed the money and I found the scientism.
It's a religion. Let's play this. I want to play this for everybody listening.
Go ahead.
And I want to play it for everybody who will listen or watch later.
My father was killed in '68. Around the time, I forget the year that Stonewall happened.
1969 was Stonewall.
So it was a year before Stonewall. But my uncle, Ted Kennedy, became the first real gay rights activist in the United States Senate. In 1980, when he ran for president, he was the first presidential candidate in history to actively court the gay vote. I campaigned with him and then many times without him in the Castro up in San Francisco. And that was at a time when no politician was going there. Teddy was the only one. And then Teddy was chair of the Senate Health Committee for 50 years. And one of his biggest issues was making sure that AIDS research was fully funded. He had a famous battle with Anthony Fauci at that time, who was trying to ban any kind of therapeutic drugs. He was trying to steer all of the business toward AZT, which was his drug with GlaxoSmithKline, which was then called Burroughs Wellcome. And there were many all of the symptomology of AIDS were other diseases for which there were therapeutic drugs. And Dr. Fauci was trying to prevent people who were suffering from AIDS from acquiring those drugs. And that's why there were then buyers clubs, famously the Dallas Buyers Club. There were Buyers Club in all the big cities with gay populations in San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, Dallas, etc. And those were people who were going to foreign countries to buy illegal therapeutic drugs to bring them back to the United States, to give them to people who were suffering from AIDS and who did not want to get on the AZT regimen, which was killing people. John Lawrenson, who was one of the most famous researchers and journalists in the AIDS community at that point, estimates that 330,000 gay men were killed by AZT between 1989, I think it was approved, and 2019, particularly in the early days. And a lot of people did not want to get on AZT. They wanted to try these other therapeutic drugs, and Anthony Fauci refused to test them for efficacy. And my uncle ultimately forced him to test them. My uncle hired Terry Byrne, who was the first openly gay chief of staff in the United States Senate for any senator. Terry Byrne was also the first HIV infected, openly HIV infected staffer in the United States Senate history, and my uncle engendered a lot of controversy by hiring him and then promoting and protecting him. And Terry Byrne worked with Teddy to make sure that HIV research was fully funded and that alternative drugs and therapeutics other than AZT were available to people who are suffering from HIV and AIDS.
Gee, folks, does that sound familiar?
Right? Okay. So you're not allowed to use hydroxychloroquine. You're not allowed to use ivermectin. You're not.
No.
No. And I don't care that you think it's horse paste or anything else. Listen to the story we just played. EZT in the AIDS endemic. You weren't allowed to take drugs that would make you at least feel better or possibly end it for you and get rid of it from your body because
Sean,
of Dr. I Am the Science.
Dr. I Am the Science. Sean, the fact is, the dude has been the same act for 50 years, all right? And the fact is, it's always about money. It's always about grant money. It's always about this or that or approval of this or that. He wouldn't even allow folks suffering from that rabid pneumonia, Kaposi sarcoma, which is the term that I always heard, that a healthy run of Bactrim, all right? Bactrim. Trimethoprim and sulfamethoxazole, a synergistic combination of a couple of antibiotics that work together that could get rid of that. And he denied it because you weren't using zidovudine or whatever it was. And I can't tell you how many industry meetings I sat in and I listened to the horse shit, and it just it didn't infuriate me as much back then because look, I'm on the cusp of being a TV person, all right? And let's okay, I have 30 seconds to do this. The biggest generation gap in the United States right now was created by the iPhone. Now that sounds crazy, but the fact is that after the iPhone, the kids who got the iPhone don't watch television. I am guilty of being a nascent TV watcher for most of my life. I did not swear off Fox News until after COVID, until after they fired Carlson, until after they called Arizona early, until after I realized the sons of bitches were on the other team. All right?
Yep.
But I mean, this is what we lived with. These institutions coming out of World War II, these were the people we trusted, and this was the authoritative source. If that guy and NIH or whoever said that, oh yeah, no, that's not going to work, you need to do this or that, we're like, okay, that's what we did. And it's embarrassing at this point. I freely admit being embarrassed.
To summarize your point, we need to be very clear because there's still several million, it looks like 10, maybe 20 million Americans that believe they're TV. And that gets into what you just said. They believe they're TV. They believe when they turn on the 6 o'clock news in Charlotte or in, it doesn't matter.
If they're in Indiana and they turn it on in Indianapolis, yeah.
In Indiana,
and they get their nightly Fox hit from Pam Bondi, and they think, oh, the DOJ is doing everything.
Maybe they even cut the cord, but they want to watch local news, so they have rabbit ears or whatnot.
They want to watch the Little Leprechaun, Brett Baer, so he can set them up for the early election call next time.
Brett Baer if you're a Hoosier who just has rabbit ears. but you would get the same story out of your local Hoosier
Right.
Fox station. It won't be
Right.
Bret Baier, it will be somebody else telling you identical things.
Right. The
And
script.
that's what and so we have a fun thing we talk about, the TV people. The TV
TV people.
people
That's
is
listen, I stole that term from you, but I've adopted it. They're the TV people.
the
And
TV
I'm on the
people.
and I'm at the lower end of that, and I'm embarrassed that I was ever one of them. But anyway, go ahead. Shit, I don't even listen to Bannon anymore because I'm not a TV person.
Jesus. The TV people, for everybody listening or who will listen in their car later, the TV people are exactly who you think of. When you walk into grandma's house, or maybe it's your dad's house, or maybe it's your husband's house. You knock on the door, you go in, you whatever, and they've got Fox News blasting at level 900 because they're deaf, and that's totally acceptable that they have the volume up that loud, but they're watching the TV. And the TV, even with Fox News, is lying to them.
Of course.
Absolutely lying to them. We just saw a story today out of CBS where some joker went in to refute Nick Shirley's story
Oh, come
about the
on.
fraud, and CBS says, "We're on the ground here," and they've got their professional $17,000 camera pointed at this guy somewhere in Minnesota who doesn't actually knock on a door. He just said, "Yeah, we were here. We looked. We checked it out. There's no fraud here." CBS, and I've got hold on, I got a real big
All right,
question.
go ahead. You can
A
finish, and then
really
but I'm going to
question.
go next. Sorry.
Is Barry Weiss actually going to fix CBS, or is she going to get just booted?
So far, the reviews are mixed. I see her panel including a lot of pro-Israel stuff. And look, there's both sides there, and I know that you and I are both sympathetic to the Israeli cause because it is a Western nation in a really bad neighborhood, and
Mhm.
I get that, and I understand you have to do what's necessary to survive, but to have Alan Dershowitz and somebody else on and say it's balanced, it's not balanced. It's not. There needs to be somebody to make the case for the Abraham Accords. There needs to be somebody to make the case for Trump. And where I see Barry falling short is she doesn't have an America First perspective on CBS yet. And I am not thinking that she's going to do that. Go ahead, Sean.
She tried, and I think she's looking. She tried to bring on Scott Jensen, and then she also tried to say, "Hey, look, I'll go with a middle of the road guy, Bret Baier," and tried to hire him, and both of them declined.
No, that's not. Bret Baier is not middle of the road.
Oh, I'm
Bret Baier,
aware, but
all
just
right.
to be clear of where she's trying, I'm not saying I'm a fan. I'm telling you, and we've talked about this in other podcasts with Barry Weiss. She is a Democrat, but she's a Democrat that's truth seeking.
No, she's got some sense. She's
Yeah.
got some sense, but she needs to go a little farther, and I think Ellison would let her go farther, but I think culturally, I'm not sure she's equipped to do it. That's my point. I mean, there's only so much you can do if
Could
you are brought up. Okay, can I say it? I'm going to go ahead and say it. I
Yeah.
mean, what the hell?
Yeah.
When I lived in New York, I was not popular. Okay, I would. We had pub crawls and all the rest of that, and I'd finally find a liberal that wanted to tell me how wrong I was, and I looked at him, and by the end of the discussion, I ended up, and this was always the last question. Tell me the difference between a good Democrat and a good Jew. And there was never an answer. And I believe if I asked Barry the same question, I would get no answer. My thought is that a good liberal permits free speech in all situations, not just those that are culturally approved.
I want to get to the
That's
Jew thing.
okay.
No. We don't talk about Jews often.
Oh,
19
I know.
O's.
But listen.
Jews!
No
Or
one
even
here, no one here
JEW.
doesn't support
I'm not
Israel's righteous fight.
it's
No, not at all.
I
But
can get into this, but I think so. I heard from a Jew, JEW, 19 O's Jew,
all right,
that and he kind of laid it out like this: Jews in general, pre-Trump, let's go all the way back before 2016,
yeah,
and
wow, ancient
they're
history, ancient history.
they're
Yeah,
probably still there now. What the problem is with modern, you go 1950s to pre-Trump, uh, Jewish people, is that they're still in the mindset of I'm better off left alone hiding in an attic, and everyone's gonna go, "Whoa!" No, that's the feeling. So here's where that will make sense. If I just support the Democrats, they won't talk about me.
right.
They won't bother me.
I won't be. I won't.
All I gotta do is shuffle them a couple $1,000 every election cycle, and they'll leave me the fuck alone.
Right.
This is where
I won't be identified as a Jew.
I
That's
won't
right.
be identified. I won't have to put the patch on my
Right.
shoulder, and they believe that. They've been taught.
They've been
They've been
convinced.
programmed
Convinced.
that the Republicans would call them out for something, but then we gotta get into, hold on, this is the same bullshit as saying the Republicans were the slaveholders. Even though in 1854, they started the Republican Party to end slavery.
In a little white clapboard house in Wisconsin. That's exactly where it happened.
Mhm.
I want to bring up the Bill Ackman moment. Bill Ackman is largely now a force for good. He is not lily white, but for the last 20 to 25 years, Bill Ackman has made so much money. And he has contributed so much money to Ivy League schools that were hotbeds of anti-white hate.
Mhm.
And Bill just figured, hey, they won't notice me. I'll go ahead and do this. I'll write these checks to Harvard and the rest of these places, and everything will be fine. And suddenly, much to his dismay and perhaps horror, he realized that, wait a minute, they want all white people dead, and they want me dead too. This was the enlightenment of the Klan back in the 60s that thought that the civil rights struggle was about minorities and that Jews were a minority. And so they were exempt from the hatred for the majority. And much to Bill's dismay, he found that there's a bullseye on YouTube, bro. And that's been a massive discovery for him. And it explains a lot of what he's done since.
And I did see the change. I still don't think he's there yet, but
No,
he is at least
he's in the Barry Weiss camp. They're ideological cousins right now.
he's at least
Exactly.
asking the questions. Yes.
Yeah.
And going,
Asking
"Wait,
questions.
why?" Right?
Yeah.
Why?
Why do you hate me? Right. Exactly.
Well, it should be, "Why do you hate me?"
Yes. I mean, why? I mean, he was successful. He's done great things. I mean, I don't hate him. I don't trust him to remake Western civilization, but at the same time, I'd much rather have him as an ally than a foe. Good God, there's enough money against us right now.
You know what? But what you just said is the most important thing. I hope people repost this. Remind me, by the way, people listening, I'll clip this up so we can repost it later. The most important thing that Trump is doing is like, hey, let's just make money together. Then we'll deal with fighting about fat mama jokes later.
Tribalism,
And that's
right?
it. And then when people say, "Well, Republicans, they just can't get along," no, Republicans get along fine. They just have debate.
The reason you folks come to Patriot Sons podcast is because we name the tune. And the tune here is that while you heard Obama and Clinton on Bush all struggling for their legacy, what will it be? And the mainstream media is going to write it. The fact is, the legacy of Donald Trump is that he's the great revealer. He has smoked down every single ideological camp and made them show their hand. And he doesn't stop, and he won't stop. And Vance, I'm sorry, folks, Vance isn't going to stop either. All right. We're going to smoke them out, and we're going to find out what they've got. And we're going to find out if they're with us or if they're against us. And, you either want to save the West or you want to, or as Reagan said, you want to take that next step into 1,000 years of darkness. That's where we're at. It's an existential struggle. It absolutely is. And I am glad that Bill Ackman had that moment where he realized who was with him. Look, you can spend $100 million on that shit. It's your money. I don't care what you do. But the fact is, now you see. And I'm a fan of Barry Weiss because now she sees, and perhaps we can work with her. Maybe not. But I'm not willing to write her off the same way Trump does, that he'll never just kick someone away and never listen to him again. He always is open to rapprochement.
Well,
Although
all
I
right.
don't know.
No,
I mean, Marjorie
you're-
Taylor Greene might be a special case. Anyway.
Yes. MTG might be a special case, but MTG has been well known for an entire career of being
As an
this
opportunist.
angry lady who can get an opportunity. But let's go back to Barry Weiss. I've talked about this on other podcasts we've done. I want to be clear. I'm a fan of Barry Weiss, even though politically she opposes what I think. Because Barry Weiss, from the start, when I found out about her, was the Twitter files.
Right.
Elon let her in. Elon gave her access. She reported really, really great stuff. There was others, Matt Taibbi. There was others, don't get me wrong, and I like all of them because they were just
Schellenberger.
They were just reporting what they saw. They were reporters. And then you promote her, right, to the chief editor, and all of a sudden people are freaking out. You shouldn't be freaking out. You should actually be rewarding her. Go subscribe to one of her social media accounts. Give her the $5 a month because she is going to bring you. I know. She doesn't like Trump. I don't care.
So what?
If she doesn't like Trump, she likes truth, and Elon saw it. We saw it here on Patriot Sons. It doesn't matter if we don't agree with her politics. She wants to deliver truth in a story. And we talked about a couple weeks ago She killed, right, a story.
Yes, she
She
did.
killed 60 Minutes.
No. Let call Sean. Call it like it is. She killed a hit piece.
Yeah.
Yeah. 60 Minutes had not killed a hit piece on Trump for 10 years. I mean, they've run countless hit pieces. I mean, Trump sat there across from Leslie Stahl, folks, and said to Hunter Biden, oh, well, that's unverified. Bullshit. And there wasn't a ripple of disapproval for Leslie Stahl for lying through her teeth. She knew she was lying. It was pathological and it was cruel. And yet she did it, and there was no opprobrium. There was absolutely no criticism of her for being such. I can't even say the word. We'll get kicked off YouTube. So, in honor of Charlie Kirk, I'm not going to use the C word because that's exactly what she is. All right, and it was disgusting. I actually wanted to reach up. Remember, I'm a TV guy. I want to reach through my television and just. Anyway, that was awful.
All right, wait, no, you are a TV guy. Obviously, you're smart enough to see through the weeds. But so you're a TV guy. What do you think? Honestly, what do you think about Perry Weiss trying to bring? She's not trying to make anything neutral. She's trying to bring news back to CBS. What are your thoughts?
I applaud the effort. I think I in my gut, I think that she'll fail only because the pressure from the hard left is so strong. And I know who works in those newsrooms. They're the same people who work in the Department of Justice. And unfortunately, they went to school together. And it's all groupthink. Sean, let's rewind back to Charles Murray and the bell curve. And of course, he pointed out the IQ differential between races and got tarred and feathered and whatever, but he was a great scholar. All right. But he pointed out how American society was self segregating by IQ into elites, rabble, the middle, all the rest of that. And he pointed out that the media and the elites, the political elite, all went to school together and that they were cloistered, and he didn't know what the result of this all was. And the result is obviously that we used to have ink-stained wretches in the media like Mike Royko and people like that would lampoon and tell the truth about political figures that were full of shit. But now you've got no chance of getting a line reporter at CBS or NBC or ABC to tell the truth about Democrat corruption. None. Look at the Somali. Okay.
No,
I'm going nuts. But
going.
no, I mean, they won't even talk about it.
Keep going, because I got a question to ask you. Keep going.
No, they won't even talk about it. It's like professional courtesy for piranhas. You know, we don't want to eat the fish because the other piranhas are already full. You know, we don't care what happens to anybody. And yet the other factor is they're also well paid. How much money did Acosta get from USAID?
Oh no, we can go there. I was talking about the media.
No, but I mean, but the point is that the elite class doesn't have to have a conspiracy. It doesn't have to be a left wing. They don't have to send faxes to each other to know what to say. They're just on the same page because we don't count.
So here's where I'm gonna go. Hear me out, because I think
Right.
you will get where I'm going. The people, even I'm not even talking about the TV watchers. We've already explained who those are, but the people who watch TikTok or Reels on
Yeah.
Facebook or any hold on. They get a little bit of information, but that's what you and I would call a low or no information voter. Something
Right.
was coined by Rush Limbaugh. Here's what the issue is that they're able to just vomit all of this stuff out. All of this stuff out, right? See? Right?
There
There
it
you go.
is, the leader of the
Now
revolution, yeah.
I guess we're what I gotta ask you because, all of our listeners, I'm gonna assume maybe you don't know. This is where we're at in low and no information voters is not an insult. It's just you're living your
No.
life, you're doing your thing, you don't care. You
Trying
hear that
you're
Trump's an asshole, or it could have been during Obama. That he's bombing all. Why is he bombing everybody? And you just move on with your life because the Walmart is still down the street. You can buy stuff. It's fine because I
can
can
watch
still live my
TV.
everyday life, right?
You can see the
That's
game, your team's in the playoffs,
yeah, teams in the
it's
playoffs,
okay,
right?
yeah.
Hey, right. So here we are. Now we're at a point where people really
Sean,
are going. Go ahead.
here's a true confession.
Mhm.
I sat there during COVID. I told you, my longest Facebook post ever, which was deleted, was how proud I was to be part of the medical establishment and that I was a pharmacist and because hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin was going to solve the pandemic. Okay? And I was sitting there wasting emotional energy worrying about how Major League Baseball was missing an opportunity to just have their regular season because they were outdoors and nobody was going to get COVID if they just sat a seat or two away from someone else and it would be the sport that would be okay if we didn't have hockey or basketball or whatever where everybody was compressed. I mean, guys, I was totally bought in. But I thought baseball was going to save us, kind of the same way they did after 9/11. When Bush
No,
threw
no,
the
no.
pit.
I want to be very clear about this. You went to school. You are a chemist.
Yes,
You thought
it was on the
at the
level.
time. You thought at the time that distancing, like all of this, would no, no. Fill me in. The baseball
Oh,
game.
overall, it made sense. I always wondered why there wasn't an emphasis on outdoors because outdoors would be fine. But as time went on, up to and including the vax mandate, it became clear that this was something far more than just distancing. It was social control. This was what I would call a pincer movement, the same way that the Panzer tanks came in behind the Maginot Line and subjugated the French. That's what this was. And it was a bit before it was going to be revealed, but the human heart, Sean, this is what you're looking for, holds on to the idea that things are as you thought they were. They're on the up and up. They're really just trying to cure us. It's we're gonna take this stuff and then everything will be okay. And Sandoz donated 50 million tablets or whatever hydroxychloroquine. So we're all gonna be okay. And I get a little hit from Mike Siegel on Fox. Yeah, I'm watching TV. He's going on about how this person out here and whatever got up out of an emergency room, because they'd given him last rites and they did an IV hydroxychloroquine bag, and all of a sudden he stood up and went home in 2 days. So we're going to lick this. We're Americans, right? I mean, that's what we are. We're Americans.
By the way, hit the bell. Whatever platform you're watching this on, hit the bell so you get notifications when we go live. I gotta
Yeah.
ask. No, we are Americans, but then I'm gonna ask you this:
Well, no,
How
they're not
how
though. Yeah.
am I gonna get rabies from my vaccine shed brother's dog who took an mRNA vaccine for rabies?
You could. You could.
Well, and I think I wanna bring this up because it's important because
Our
that's a
topic. Yeah, I know.
hold on, it's a forced they already tried to force it with humans, and then humans resisted.
That's
Now
real.
we got the veterinarians that are for and I'm not mad at veterinarians, I get what's going on. Hold on, everybody's gonna freak out. But the veterinarians are forcing mRNA vaccines on dogs and cats, your pets. And
Yes,
they're
they are.
going to vaccine shed on you. Let's get into that.
I I I I totally believe that's true, and I think what they see is that the weakest among us cling to their pets because they're lonely and we've been isolated, and they dote on their pets. In fact, what Treats Unleashed and all these what PetSmart, all these places have been very successful retail businesses because people just freaking love their dogs and cats. No criticism. I love
Absolutely.
I love
Absolutely.
mine. I love mine too until my ex took him from me in the divorce and got him killed. But that's a whole nother sideline. Okay, but I know I absolutely understand the attachment to pets, but yet they're so evil that they're now introducing the mRNA to our pets to
Well
get to
well,
us.
JC, hold on. Unlike they already did it to humans, and then humans fought back. In the
Right.
veterinary world, these are still force mandated. And you
Yes, they
say,
are.
"Well, what wait, hold on. What do you mean force mandated, Sean?" If you want to drop your dog off at a doggy daycare, or if you're gonna go out of town and you need the doggy daycare to take care of for 3 weeks, 2
Gotta have a
weeks,
shot.
it has to have all of these mRNA
NA shots. That's right.
vaccine I hate the word vaccine. Shots, and, you can't drop your dog or your cat because a lot of people will if you're gonna go out of town for a long time, want their cat to go one of these cat hotels too, dog hotels. But you can't. You are forced. You're force mandated to do this to your dog, and now you're let's get into the story we were talking about. Now a vaccine shed.
Yeah. It absolutely is true. The fact is that through the through the mechanisms of action in the mRNA that the vax can shed and be contagious. I mean, is that the right word? But it can pass from a pet to a human.
So, to be clear, you can catch a virus that should have never been transferable between a pet, a dog or a cat, or your pet parrot, whatever, to a human because of we've introduced vaccinations to these
And
mRNA vaccinations.
right,
To
and it's mandated.
to them. To animals,
Yes.
it's absolutely
Yes.
mandated.
Yeah. We won't give you your rabies tags until you've done this. In
Mhm.
other words, they're holding you hostage yet
And your
again.
HOA won't let you have your golden retriever. Just the sweetest little golden retriever.
Loving dog.
Unless they have all of these mRNA injections.
But actually, Sean, the right term for them is bioweapons,
It
and
no,
they
that's
they
the
can
correct term.
And they continue to develop them, and they continue to insist that they need to spread amongst the general population. And it's evil. It is. It's not studied. There is not they're not quality, they're not safety studies, they don't know the outcome, but they're willing to do it because in Operation Paperclip, we didn't only get the Nazi rocket scientists, we got the Nazi doctors, and that's what's going on. And it sounds horrible, but it is. And I'm
Well, no. Let's walk into that just a little bit further. I was looking at the phone to see if we were getting any messages. We are not currently, but I'm getting DMs. Maybe I can bring them on the podcast
That's
at
fun.
some point. Oh, we really need to look at it. We could talk about a whole bunch of different stuff, but when we talk about the science, we need to look at the actual health outcome. And when you look at children, I could probably go through my bookmarks and bring up massive amounts of children being health affected. I guarantee you I can by vaccines. And you say, "Well, I shot. You're just an idiot. You're just whatever."
No, you're
Okay,
not an idiot.
okay,
You're right.
okay. But hear me out, because JC and I've already explained what ended all of this really was public sanitation.
Right. And Sean, what I wanted to point out to you is if you want to rerun the 1985 clip, it might make more sense to people now. I'm not saying that we should do a rerun because it'll chase away viewers. But did you hear the terms they were using? ALS, Guillain-Barré, lupus, on and on and on. Neurology and immunology exist in a dynamic balance. And if your immune system becomes compromised, your neurologic system is vulnerable. And my friend who I've tried to talk into coming on this podcast a few times, I'm not thinking he's going to do it. But he took the shot to go in the Empire State Building with his daughter. And they weren't able to go because for whatever reason. And now he's got a compromised heart. Look, folks, you have to be your own advocate for health. You have to be. You can't. I'm just going to say it out loud. You can't trust the science. They're not telling you the truth. You need to look at the data. You need to look at the evidence, and you need to decide what you should do for you. Right now, I would never vaccinate a child with anything because I don't know what's in the vial.
Well, that brings up what we were just talking about. Would you vaccinate your dog for rabies? Like maybe you would have
No.
20 years ago, but the vaccine is now mRNA vaccines.
Painted. I would hide my dog. I would never let anyone know that I had one. I mean, I wouldn't try to get the tags or anything like that. I'd take my chances. And I know that you might say, well, that's violating animal control or whatever. I'm sorry. You folks that they have no credibility. I after what they've done to us. Look, we've always talked about Reagan's biggest mistakes, and Sean believes that it was amnesty for illegal aliens from Mexico. I actually think the exemption for liability for vaccines was bigger. when you when push comes to shove. And I loved Ronald Reagan. Okay, he made me feel good. But the fact is, those vaccines have subjected literally, I think millions of families to things they didn't need,
There,
burdens they didn't need to
there
bear.
are
Is that fair?
stories out there that, like, if obviously you're watching us on Rumble or YouTube, or X, but like even on YouTube, you will find stories that will tell you that these vaccines, right, are actually harmful to your immune system. To
Right.
be clear, I want to be very clear so we don't get banned. Oh, but you gotta look, like, JC, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, holy smoke, in 10 years, just 10 years, all of a sudden we're going to see a mass exodus of American people because they're gonna get all of these autoimmune diseases. All of a sudden, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds are gonna be ALS, or they're gonna
Oh,
be something else that
it's Sean, it's already happening.
I know it is.
Have you looked at disability claims? I mean,
Mm.
the next show we do, you should show the rise in disability claims, not only in the UK, but in the United States. I mean,
Mhm.
and it's a 2021, and then they start to climb the hill, and they haven't stopped. And we see the turbo cancers, we see all of these different things that would not be happening if immune systems weren't compromised. And they have been. They have been.
Let's play another clip.
Okay. I'm ready.
Is disastrous. These shot, the MMR shot, according to the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, has killed 1,600% more than measles infection since the year 2000. So, I mean, these vaccine, the risk benefit profile is.
All right, so
Oh yeah,
the
I needed
MMR,
another
MMR,
beer when I saw who you were putting on. I know I needed another beer for that guy. Yeah, absolutely.
MMR. Measles, mumps, rubella, MMR. Again, this gets into the argument that's going on online now is, yeah, we just used to have measles parties, or we had chickenpox parties, and
Chickenpox,
then
right.
and then everyone's like, "Well, those are two totally different things." We have the people that are smart enough, so it doesn't really matter. It's the same thing. Yeah, it's different.
The MMR is far more toxic than any of those diseases. I can state that with perfect clarity.
How many people would die as opposed to getting chickenpox if we just didn't have any vaccine?
Here's my chickenpox scar. It's on my left hand. I didn't die. I scratched for a bit. It really wasn't that bad.
I got some here up on my forehead.
Yeah, well, I figured that might have been what happened to your hair, but you've got plenty behind, so yeah, it's okay.
Oh, do I
No,
have 5 head? Have
it's
I
it's a
finally achieved 5 head?
you know, they say that the 5 head is a symbol of a mature man, you know.
Alright. Alright.
Look, I think I said it before, I'm gonna say it again. I think the vaccine exemption from lawsuits was a bigger mistake than letting in the Mexicans. Listen, I'm a Reagan hawk. I loved him. All right, but those two decisions were horrific. And yeah, I can criticize the Bushes in the era of Tweedledum and Tweedledee and Tweedledummer politics and amnesty and what are Americans with disabilities and all the rest of the garbage that they did to try to keep the liberals happy. But Ron dropped the ball in his second term. We'd have been better off with I don't know. We wouldn't have been better off with Bush, but if he would have had Paul Laxalt as his running mate, that would have been better. Laxalt was a stud. Anyway,
So
but that's neither
no,
here
no,
nor
no.
there. And then listen, this is hindsight now. Remember, I spent 29 years, 30 years in that business. You couldn't break my will. I was insisting to everyone that it was all fine and we all knew. I was a TV person, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
And this is horrifying to me to see what's been done. Horrifying. And not only is it horrifying to see what's been done, but it's horrifying that they're doubling down. That's the part. When I say I'm German ethnically, and I believe in the scientific method, and I absolutely do, I want the truth. But if you're hurting people, you should stop. And that's always been the argument. Remember when I told you about the liberals, and I'd corner them and ask what's the difference between a good Democrat and a good Jew, and they could never answer, and all the rest of it. The other caveat of that was, hey, you know what? This program, and you find out it's hurting the people you claim to be helping. Why don't you stop it? And they never would. And $7 trillion later this year, they're still doing it. Okay, so I can feel morally superior to the left, but the fact is that my guys have done this, and they are scum. All right, the point. Sorry, they are scum. The idea that you run a bioweapon experiment on the American people in the guise of saving them from a pandemic is so morally absolutely outrageous that it makes my head explode.
You know what
It's
completes this with the United States government? So Tom Emmer out of Minnesota, House Whip, hear me out. House Whip. So what's a whip supposed to do? Whip up votes.
Make sure you get the vote.
I can explain this in more detail than you absolutely need to understand. But for people who don't really understand Congress, the House Whip whips up votes. That's what they do. So Tom Emmer has been all over this, and we're not going to get into it. But I want to
He's a
explain
scumbag.
how Congress is just awful. Is all over this. We're going to Minnesota this, Minnesota
No, they're
bull,
not.
Minnesota, and
They're
I
not
said,
gonna do. They're not gonna do shit.
here's what I've been posting under and even over Tom's posts is, did you know Elon and Doge showed you the fraud and you chose to pay for it anyways?
Hey, Sean, you want to know the big joke? Who was the head of the Doge committee in the House? Remember? MTG.
MTG.
How about that? Yeah. She was the chairman of the Doge committee. You think she's filling in the view on the fraud?
Oh, God.
That's just okay. The Romans always talked about bread and circuses. Yeah, no shit, man. They got nothing on us.
Is MTG a Romanoff?
Oh, who the hell knows what she is? She's a what do they call her? She's a bleached bush body, according to Jasmine.
Listen.
By the way, I love the fact that Crockett's got the nomination for the Senate in Texas. That's high
Oh, I
comedy.
love
That's
it.
that's
I
fantastic.
absolutely love it. I really do. Because here's what we're going to find out. How many people in Texas have TDS? And everyone's like, oh, a Democrat can never win the Senate. And I'm going to go, oh, really?
Yeah, let's find out.
Let's find out. Jasmine Crockett. And you're going to go, ah, no way. It's never going to happen. And then I'm going to ask you, whether it happens or not, where the fuck are your voters in the primaries? Texas. And let me be very clear what I'm saying. Texas, Indiana, Missouri, any other state. You need to really, really dive into why people don't even bother to vote.
Or worse than that, and I want to talk about Texas. And
Go ahead.
I love Texas. Okay, so all of you in Texas, brace for it because it's coming. But I do love you. There's nothing more American than Texas. Everyone has the image of Texas, the Lone Star State, the Cowboys, the Texas Rangers, all of that stuff. All right. But when it comes down to Texas, I want to know why your primaries are open. Huh? Why don't you let Republicans elect Republican candidates in a primary? Because leaving it open for Democrats to cross over and vote for their preferred candidate corrupts your state.
Mm.
And you guys have had how long to fix this? And it's not fixed. Mark Stein, who is a favorite of mine in terms of cultural commentary, and until he had health issues, he was an absolute blowtorch of freedom. Okay, Mark Stein, he cautioned me, not personally, but overall, never underestimate the power of inertia in human affairs. And man, has that chicken come home to roost. I look at all these structural reforms that need to be done. I look at, let's look at the Arizona stolen elections because we all know this. I mean, Katie Hobbs, all of them down there stole it. And if you look at the history of the Soviet Union and when the Soviet Union disintegrated, why did the Soviet Union disintegrate? The Soviet Union disintegrated because their truckers took all their trains were out in the what do you call them? The satellite colonies or states or whatever the hell they were.
Provinces.
And the engineers got off the train and just left the train there so it wouldn't come back. The truckers in the Soviet Union had enough game that they just took their trucks and they blocked up all the highways to all of the Baltic states and everywhere else, and no Russians could get through. So there was no commerce. So it increased the economic pressure where Gorbachev finally said, okay, we just had enough. We can't do it. All right. In Arizona, guys, you watched these scumbags steal the election from Trump in 2020. You sat there and watched them steal Kerry Lake's governorship in 2022 for Katie Hobbs. You did nothing. You didn't recall Richer. You didn't recall Bill Gates, the other one, you didn't recall anybody. You didn't do shit. All right? I'm not condemning you. I'm just saying that there's got to be some more agency in the population. And before I sound all negative, I want to shout out to the Georgia Patriots who diagnosed this election fraud. 5 years. No help from Kemp. No help from Roscoe P. Raffensperger. No help from Boss Hogg. No help from the AG, Chris Carr. They were all in on it. And yet you guys still push the case. 5, 6, 7, 8 judges wouldn't render a verdict, impounded evidence, catch and kill. I mean, Totenberg, the judge, she took all the testimony in the Dominion case about how that clown that you see all those pictures of up in Michigan that could manipulate the Dominion machine with a pen. You remember that guy? I don't even remember what his name was. Doesn't even matter. But Dominion's dead to rights. You can throw the election. It litigated because Democrats brought the case back in 18. So it made its way all the way through the court system, and Judge Totenberg took it under advisement and went back to chambers to render a verdict in 2023. Has she rendered a verdict yet? Nope. No 2020 Georgia cases. None. Have been decided. None. Catch and kill.
That's the exact thing that the TV watchers believe was Trump bought the cases.
Right.
And they were proven wrong by the judges. The judges just said, I won't hear the case. I won't hear it.
Throw it out on standing. Right.
Yeah, I won't hear it. We got all this fraud for election fraud. No, I'm not going to even. I'm not going to hear the case. And then hold on, then CBS. I know. I said I was a fan of Barry Weiss. In New York Times, the Washington Post.
I know where you're going.
All of them. They say no. They were proven incorrect. They didn't say the correct words, which was the judges threw out the cases. Well, no, because why?
Standing.
Well, because they weren't. There obviously it was just it was bullshit. It was fraud. No, hold on,
John. It's actually worse than that, and I'm going to fill you in. My favorite for AG of the United States was not Matt Gaetz. I think he'd have been fine, but obviously he's controversial. I wanted Paxton.
Yeah,
Kenny, right? Kenny has been true, all right. And God, I hope he beats Cornyn. And I know they don't want that, but whatever. But he filed that lawsuit about how Texas should not have to abide by the presidential election results when we can see that all these other states cheated. Now, obviously, he was right. I mean, that was the case, all right? It was thrown out on standing by the Supreme Court, the Roberts Court, that shitweasel commie John Roberts, Norm Eisen's good buddy, threw that one out, okay? And Amy Coney Barrett, whatever, doesn't matter. This is the same court that gave Massachusetts standing to sue surrounding states for carbon emissions that were in their atmosphere, but would not permit Texas to sue on federal elections because they saw cheating from surrounding states. Same court, same people.
What's the Supreme Court supposed to do? No, I'm asking an honest question.
Hear the case. Investigate. I mean, make Pennsylvania produce documents. Do what we did in Georgia. Make them produce documents. Show us the poll logs. You could do something. Throw the damn thing out and say, no, we don't have jurisdiction. What?
No, of course they have jurisdiction. That's retarded. Of
course they do.
But they can only take so many cases a year, and that's the argument. But obviously Trump's been ramming it down their throat and go, well, here's another one. Here's another one. Here's another one. You're gonna fuck it. Like, we're just gonna keep throwing
he keeps winning. He keeps winning now, but he couldn't catch a whiff back then.
No, it's totally. Right, but and then a lot of people, to get to your point, a lot of people are looking at SCOTUS and going, "Well, why the fuck did John Roberts or some of the other conservative
Yes, yes.
justices vote
Those
against it?"
staunch
It,
conservatives. Yeah.
it honestly, like, so throw it in the chat room. If you believe there's something that we're not seeing, hear me out. Throw it in the chat room. We will look it up. We will actually bring a SCOTUS case to you and give
Oh
you
yeah.
a really good observation of what happened in that case. I don't even care if it's from the 1960s or the 1860s. Send it to us. We will totally go over that SCOTUS
It,
case.
it blows me away that it's a federal election and they can say that basically the most important red state in the nation doesn't have a case that the other states didn't conduct their election fairly.
I
And now
think
we're finding out that they were 100% right.
Well, I think they fucked up on this one, and let me explain why.
And
Obviously,
I will let you do that, but the minor point, and it is a minor point, is that Paxton was right, and he was the only AG willing to make the case. And even Ted, no less of an authority than the great Ted Cruz, Israel First Ted, all right, was willing to litigate on behalf of Trump because Ted was a solicitor general. He's a very good litigator. He's a shit senator, but he's a good litigator, and he
really,
probably could have prevailed. All right, but leave that by the side of the road. Go ahead.
no, Ted's fine. I think what you're looking at with the most recent SCOTUS decisions, even some of the SCOTUS, some of the Supreme Court justices are going, well, no, hold on. Here's what everyone misses about SCOTUS. SCOTUS isn't actually in charge of anything. They're in charge of litigating what either the second, which would be Congress, or the
Right.
first, which would be articles, the president, and that's what they're litigating. In that case, if you look at it from that point, sometimes they're just stupid, and that's okay. We can explain lots and lots and lots of things, like all of the times they've got it wrong, like Roe v. Wade, which actually
Fred
came out
Scott.
of a totally different case, and they legislate from the bench. And what they're not supposed to do is legislate, create law from the bench. And so now they're looking at this as like, I don't even, all I can do is accept the cases I'm willing to accept because they do not, SCOTUS, Supreme Court of the United States, does not have to accept the cases that are asked of them.
Right.
They don't. And so they choose the cases and they do the thing, and here we are. And everyone's going, well, this is going to go to SCOTUS. Probably not.
Nope.
Even if it goes to SCOTUS, they're going to look at it from
Ain't gonna mean shit. Yeah, I
a
know.
constitutional standpoint. Is it constitutional? That's what SCOTUS does. Is
And
it
if the answer is yes, great. If the answer is no, you're screwed, and then you got another 2 years to wait. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
And everyone's like, everyone, not everyone. A lot of people feel like, well, they're going to answer the question. No, they will never answer the question. They will tell you if it is constitutional or not constitutional. And even if you bring up a court case where they screwed up, they can change their decision or they cannot change their decision.
I know. They're pretty powerful. No doubt.
Very much.
Yeah.
Kidding.
And I look at the whole tariff thing, and the liberals were all really happy about the fact that the SCOTUS didn't really love the tariffs, and it's like, okay, but guess what? If they give him enough time, he can implement all that shit through other venues. He's very resourceful. You don't have to worry about it. They just want to let him know that he couldn't just sit at a negotiating table and tell someone, "You're going to pay 100% tariff unless you agree with me." Yeah, all right. Now you're going to have to be a little more delicate than that.
Yeah. No, what's funny is he actually can.
I know.
Hadn't ruled on it. No,
Of course he can.
Of
No, they're delaying totally to give him time to gird
He is the
his loins. Yeah.
executive. So Article
Right.
1, the executive. Article 2, Congress. Article 3, SCOTUS.
Yeah. No doubt. I mean, Article 5 is the Convention of the States, which is where I hope we go. But man, I got to tell you, with all the media hysteria and all the rest of that, the idea of a constitutional convention would be just
What's the one thing, if we could do a constitutional convention, what would you ask to make an amendment or revoke an amendment?
term limitation.
Term limits?
Yeah, there's absolutely no reason to have a Chuck Grassley or a Nancy Pelosi in the Congress. None.
I'm okay with that. I like it.
Oh, blue slip Chuck. Day trader Nancy. Yeah, no,
Do
enough.
you think low and no information voters, and this is not an insult to anybody, I've been very clear when I say this. People just want to live their lives. They want to, go to work, to get whatever they need. Do you think? We're talking about a constitutional amendment. Do you think any of these people would vote for it? You need 2/3 of Congress and 3/4.
I think the states. I think that no. In a constitutional convention, 3/4 of the states ratify it. Doesn't have anything to do with Congress at all. They don't have to pass anything. I mean, the states can call a convention of the states and propose their own amendments. That's the true separation of power. All right? And if you get, 75% of the states to agree on something, they can do it. And I actually think that there's a increasing chance that the states could agree on balanced budget, term limitation, and probably a ban on congressional stock trading. I think that absolutely could be an amendment to the Constitution.
That'd be huge.
It would be good. I mean, but the fact is we have to get there, and we have to fight through the white noise from the mainstream media to get there, where they're, oh my God, the whole country's in danger. No, it's not. We just don't want Dan Crenshaw to buy 1,000 shares of Cabela's right before the merger. I mean, that's what we don't want.
Right.
That's not right. I mean, okay. People think, oh, he's conservative, he's bare knuckled, he's this, he's that. Look, Sean and I are both JFK Democrats, folks, and we're going to be that until the day we die, because the government should help people, but it should stop helping them when they see that they're hurting them. Okay. I mean, that's my definition of a JFK Democrat. We want America first.
I'm a Trump Democrat. Yes.
Yeah, no, I get that. I totally get that.
No, I am exactly what you just laid out. I'm a Trump Democrat.
Yeah. And I'll never declare myself as a Republican again. I mean, I am technically more conservative than liberal, but only because liberals have been so discredited. They don't stop when they find they're hurting someone. They don't stop helping them. Fair?
No, I think that's totally fair.
Look at this Somali thing. Look at the vaccine thing. Look at how the inertia, Mark Stein, the inertia of the political class just pushes forward and crushes lives. And to the point of putting mRNA in your pets and putting your life at risk, you've got to be kidding. And they're not kidding, they're doing it, and they're offering bonuses to veterinarians for vaccinating X amount of their pets that they see. Could you be more evil? Could you not care any more about your fellow man than that? What are you doing? And yet it's happening. So you wonder, where does faith come into this?
Can I ask you? I know we'll probably need to close this up, but can I ask you? Can you
Oh shit, I
explain?
could go all night, man. I
All right, well,
whatever.
all right. Hear me out. Can you explain to everybody what vaccine shed is?
Basically, it's a nucleic RNA, DNA type material that sloughs off. You look. Our bodies are organisms, all right?
Well, yeah,
And
so I'll ask a question. Will we all skin shed?
yes,
All right. Well, but my dog is just laying on my lap. We're watching a Netflix show. Now all of a sudden I'm seeing stories that my dog can
shed.
skin shed, and that skin is. We'll get there. We'll get there. Hear me out, people. But shed, we're if we have a dog or a cat, if we ever want them to if we want to go on vacation, we want to get them into a doggy daycare for a couple of 3 or 4 days. They are forced mandated to take these vaccines.
Right.
Now that they've had these mRNA vaccines, they're laying on your lap a couple of weeks later, or maybe 5 months later. They're shedding this, what I'm talking about, vaccine shed. They're shedding it onto you as a human.
Right.
Can
And if
you?
you're careless enough to introduce that to rub your eyes or pick your nose or whatever, uh, you can introduce it to your system. That's how you catch things. And they want you to catch it. They want the entire population under their control. And you say, is it a plan? Is it this is no, no. Is it an experiment? Oh, it most definitely is. I mean, they've been experimenting on us ever since World War II with chemtrails and all the rest of that stuff that people have gone nuts about, and they've always debunked and said, "Oh no, it can't be that." No, it is that. And this is just not another wives' tale. This is people paying veterinarians to do this to your pets so they can get the mRNA into your house and hopefully get it into you. That's sorry.
So
I hate to be the
I'm
bearer of bad
also
news. Yeah.
like, no, no, no. I'm gonna. Well, all right. We're including veterinarians in the bad. Oh, what the healthcare is doing. But I posted today. Should we actually? I think I quote posted you, but whatever. Should we at this point just get into where we're going to horse doctors? Hold on. Or we're going to, I know it sounds funny, we're going to farm veterinarians and asking them because hear me out. If we get a prescription from them, then we got pharmacists
Yes.
that can fulfill the prescriptions if a prescription is even needed. But then you have a team, the horse doctor. I know, ha 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 ha. And then you
Yeah.
have the pharmacist. Ha ha ha. I get it. I get it. CNN, you're yelling at me. You're gonna find me. I get it.
Horse
But
paste. Yeah.
yeah, is this where is the healthcare system going to recover, or are we just going to go to we need horse doctors and pharmacists?
Sean, we're in a fourth turning. Clearly, we are. We're not in the bloody part of it yet. All right. But the people who believe in the turnings, and wow, we could do another hour on this, but 1776 to 1780, 1790 was a turning of the world. It was the American Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
80 years, 85 years later, you had the American Civil War where we ended slavery. Another 80 years later, we had World War I, and then the precursor to World War II. And guess what? 80 years later, where are we? We're right now. Okay? Each of these...
Hold on. Time out. So a generation is 20 years. You have a kid, they turn 20. You have a kid, they have a kid, turns 20. So 20 years. So look at how many, like when people say only a generation, 20 years.
4 generations.
4 generations.
4 generations is a fourth turning. And we are either at the precipice or in the early stages of this fourth turning. Now, I could not be happier that we have the leader that we have to navigate this. In fact, I think it was divine providence that they stole the election because it gave a bunch of people insight into how bad they are. All right. So I think that might have mitigated some of the damage. But we can't rule out another world war. We can't rule out massive terrorism activity. I mean, we're going to have to sort this out. And we're going to have to figure out what the world order is going to be following this, because it certainly isn't going to be what we've just emerged from. The liberal world order that the Democrats cling to is dead. Tucker Carlson has said it best. No one wants what they're selling. No one. When they're honest about it, they can't get a vote. They really can't. I mean, you look at Omar and AOC, they're just lightweights. They're a joke, all right? But who has the heft on the other side? That's a better question. Obviously, Trump, I think. Obviously, Vance. I mean, that feels good to look at those two guys, and it feels like we're in a pair of safe hands. But there's still a lot of wood to chop. And we don't know how it turns out, and we don't know if Russia and Ukraine go nuclear. Look at what's going on in Iran tonight. Have you seen those videos?
Yeah,
oh
I
my
have.
God. Oh, do you realize the implications that has for the Chinese Communist Party and their energy source, which is Iran, sends them all of their oil? These are unbelievably dangerous times, fraught with risk.
But hold on, do you think, all right, now we're changing subjects. Do you think the Persians want their country back? Or is this just...
Well, I think they do. I don't know if it's going to work. I mean, is the CCP going to back the mullahs?
Yes.
I mean, they've just killed all the Muslims in China, right? The Uyghurs, right?
Well, but those were just Uyghur slaves.
Right. I mean,
oh no, and people are getting
you
what?
and I are accused of being Putin honks. You know, unite the clans, but obviously Russia is our safest ally if we want to go that route. And Russia can help us settle a lot of scores, and we won't have a lot of nuclear worries if Russia and we are together. And Europe's the odd man out, which is what I fervently pray and hope for every single night. I'm so done with European elites. I can't stand them.
That's likely going to happen, JC. I just want to be
Well, I mean,
clear.
it seems inevitable, but they really overplayed their hand.
Well, why does it seem inevitable? Is because so many people still believe that were in the Cold War, which ended in the
30 years
1980s.
ago. Right?
Yeah, it's over. We need to be very clear to the people that listen to us that all right, you don't like Russia because they have a different style of government, but their government has always wanted to team up with the West,
Right.
including the European Union currently. I know. I'm not a European Union fan, but
I would
they
be called a European Union phobe. Okay, anyway,
right.
go ahead.
They have said over and over, "Hey, listen, let's do some trade." Oh, hey, shit, you got shit going on in the Middle East? We'll help you.
Right.
Literally,
You got
militarily,
terrorism.
they have
You got
helped you.
terrorism problems. There's nobody better at bombing a bunch of terrorists than us.
We'll help
Right.
you.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Russia's like, we're in. We'll do it. And it's Trump is the one that's telling everybody, no, look, they have been doing this since the 1980s. They have said, let us in. And
Right.
all of you dumb bastards have said, no, Cold War.
Right. Give them the stiff arm. Right. No, it's a joke. And here's the reason why I think Europe's the odd man out. What do they have to offer? Other than worthless coins.
You know what's even more funny about that is they believe that they are some sort of superpower, and they're not.
Right.
Russia is a superpower only because it has a lot of
I know.
But like Europe, EU, specifically the European Union, a government that governs other countries' governments, believes that they have all of this power. They do not. And if they really just took 5 seconds to calm the fuck down, they would look and see that Russia and America are the actual military
We belong
superpowers.
together.
And if we could just start trade agreements with Russia and the European Union, they would all get rich.
Yes. And I wanna close with one final thought, Sean, and this is once again I'm cribbing from Mark Stein because he has been a brilliant historian and prognosticator of the future. But I remember back in the day when I was idealistic and I was reading his columns, and he talked about a parade in Great Britain. And no, it didn't include Trump as a blimp or all of that stuff. It was actually British. I think they even had a British flag or two.
Yeah.
And the military was going through the Praetorian Guard, the whole thing. And Toynbee talked about the illusion of permanence, that there was no question from anyone in that crowd in 1910 or thereabouts that Britain was the superior power in the world and it would never change, and the sterling was the coin of the realm, and good times were ahead. And within a generation, they were in rubble.
Mm-hmm.
And he called it the illusion of permanence. And the European elites have not learned that, internalized that lesson. The illusion of permanence is what they suffer from, and they are yesterday's news.
They are. All right, let's close it out.
All right.
Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you so much. We're just going to pop up the show. We love you. Thank you.